Hi, welcome to the School Run. I'm Jane.
And I'm Liv.
And we are going to share with you the best conversations we have on our school run.
We will invite guests and debate topics that affect and resonate with every generation.
We all remember our own school run, so maybe have a think about yours.
What do you remember?
Hello and welcome to another episode of the School Run podcast. Just gets more and more exciting every single week. I cannot believe that we've done well over 40 episodes now and almost to our first year anniversary. It's just incredible. And the support we've had from all of you listening has been incredible, from direct messages, buying us a coffee, sending us a review, recommending others to listen to our podcast. We're really, really blessed. And not only do we have our school run chats that Liv and I do on our own, but we bring guests along with us now. How did this start? Well, February 2023, Liv and I knew that we had a very long run to school, about 90 minutes there, 90 minutes back. We had great chats in the car, and we just decided to put them onto a podcast platform and then invite guests along to also share their wisdom, their journey, their story. It's been a fantastic journey so far, and long may it continue. Liv, how's the podcast been so far for over 40 episodes for you?
It's been like an experience, like being able to meet all these amazing people that you can just like learn about them and talk to them and be able to like learn new things every day, and I think it's been amazing.
It really has been amazing. And a couple of weeks ago, my mum rang, one of our avid listeners, and she said, Jane, you're so lucky to be surrounded by all of these incredible men and women. And she said, I just want to be in your world. It's just fantastic. And we really have been in a very privileged position. Today is no different. In fact, this is one of our biggest supporters. I think she actually sent me a message to say that it was up there with the Stephen Bartlett Diary of a CEO podcast in her terms of her favourites. And that was a huge accolade. We've had a couple of times wanting to get Kerry on, and a couple of things have got in the way, but we've finally come together to do this episode. So I'm really pleased to introduce you to Kerry Lockyer. She runs Oomph Learning and Development Company. She helps leaders to build awesome teams. She's a TedX speaker. I'm in the room with a TedX speaker. And she's about to be the regional president of the Professional Speakers Association Northwest. But not only are those the hats that Kerry wears, but she's also a mum of two girls, a Liv like me and a Maddie, and also a wife, daughter, and so many roles that we have as women. We are so delighted to have Kerry with us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's I can't believe I'm actually here, having listened to your journey over the last. How long has this been going on?
So almost a year now. Almost a year.
Because I think how long ago did we meet?
We met maybe March, April time, something like that. So we just started. I think we'd just done Rachel Haslam's podcast.
Yes.
It had just come out, and you said, I love a podcast, I'll listen. And since then, you've been one of our top supporters. And it feels, when you met Liv today, it was like you knew her.
I do feel like I know her. But she's an amazing young woman, because what an opportunity this podcasting has kind of presented for you. But I love your openness and your open mind to listen to stuff and kind of take the bits that work for you and probably think about them and think what was useful for me, because not a lot of young people get that, certainly at school, so much, do they, right?
Not at all. It is a complete privilege. And honestly, the people we've met, the experiences we've had, the opportunities that we've had boxes arriving at the door, Kerry, filled with salted peanuts and samples of stuff from chefs. I mean, it's just been insane, really insane. Wow. Beautiful thank you cards. And today we're sat with 4 coloured cards in front of us.
Yes.
And we talk about colour a lot, as you know, on the podcast, but this is a totally different type of colour that we're going to talk about probably today in some of your story. We've talked about style and colours of clothes, but this is personalities and working within business and in your professional life and your personal life. So I'm sat with 4 cards in front of me. There's a green one, a yellow one, a red one, and a blue one. And I know you can't see this because we only do audio, but they've got lots of words on them. Talk to us about these cards. Talk to us about what you do at Oomph Learning.
Wow. Okay. So, God, where do I even start? So, I suppose I've been in learning and development for about 25 years. Gosh, that's quite a long time, isn't it? But one of the most impactful things that I've probably had on my learning and development journey that I've experienced myself, but now I get to share with other people, is to understand more about yourself, or so yourself and therefore others, through a really simple colour model, through this language of colour. So I suppose the important thing to remember is that we are, well, first of all, these are just preferences. So what they don't do is they don't tell you how clever you are or how good at your job you might be now or in the future. They just help you to understand more about the way that you make your decisions, how you take information in, how you prefer to share that, how and where you get your energy, these kind of things. And there are a lot of tools, brilliant tools out there that do a lot of this stuff. And I remember the first time I experienced a session like this, it suddenly changed the way. It changed the way that I looked at myself and other people. It was that transformational for me. So this was 20 odd years ago, and I remember thinking, oh, wow, that explains so much. That explains so many things, like why I sometimes struggle with to get on with this person, or why I find it really easy to get on with this person. So it just changed the way that I looked at every one of my relationships.
Would you say it opens your blind side? You know, this sense of awareness. You just suddenly, a new world opens up, a new perspective, and then you go into every situation with a different set of eyes.
Absolutely, because as I say, I just thought, well, surely everyone would get excited about new ideas and new things and wanting to try stuff out. And I sometimes couldn't understand it when people would suddenly ask me a load of questions about why I would want to do that. And I might be coming up with a load of ideas and they were trying to get to the one of them that worked. I would be like, why can't we just try all of them? But actually, all that was happening was somebody else was expressing that in their with their preference. So we all look at the world differently. It doesn't mean that I was right and somebody else was wrong, but it just gives a really good understanding of how and why we're different. And I suppose when you know that, you can apply that in your world, and it leads you to be able to build more effective relationships, put yourself into somebody else's shoes, work more effectively with others, understand what's important and what drives other people, and therefore be able to kind of flex your approach to get the most out of every relationship. And it works just as well in a work context as it does out of work.
I'm thinking about your netball team.
Yeah.
You know, you're leading a team of netballers right now, and they will all have a different set of colour preferences in a different order. And actually, as the leader or the captain of the team, or whatever you are, or even one of the fellow team members, understanding where someone else is coming from, it's just got to help that team develop, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I was just going to say, obviously we've done quite a lot of, not like the colour in a way, but we've done like other personality tests that you have done in your business as well. And what I think is, usually I'm the type of person where if I meet like a friend or someone new or something, or I've known them for a long time, I'll work at trying to keep that friendship going like trying to keep that relationship for as long as I can. And I feel like now sometimes I realise that not everyone is gonna like me, and I'm not gonna get along with everyone. And usually I'd be like, but no, I need to make sure that everyone likes me and make sure, that I'm always a good person to everyone. And it's exhausting trying to just be like a really great person and try to make everything work. So I think by learning this, I've realised that some people I'll connect with, some people I won't. And if I like people who are on the same vibe as me, like chatty and upbeat and like enthusiastic, and I feel like it just helped me realize, the people that I want in my life, and people maybe that don't bring me that energy,
fill you up. But it does mean that you, in a workplace situation or in a team, you are going to have to work with other people. So knowing this presumably, Kerry, you're the expert, not me, but presumably that helps you to communicate in a better way.
Absolutely. So I work with a lot of organisations, a lot of teams, and quite often the leaders will say to me, I just wish we worked better together. I might ask somebody to do X, Y, Z, but they just don't seem to want to do it, and I don't understand it, and the impact that has on the team. But actually, using something like this to help not only, as I say, not only you understand why you might prefer to have, let's say, email communication, and you might need lots of details, and you might need lots of structure in your life. But that not necessarily might be the case for everyone. So I don't actually. I prefer to talk to people face to face or in person or over the phone. I might need an email with some follow-up information, but it's definitely not my preferred method. But that's just a difference. That's a preference, right?
That's like me talking to my friends. They all text me and I'm there sending long voice messages because I like getting like the emotion out, and like sometimes I feel like messages can be like read the wrong way and they don't understand the tone. So I always just do a voice message now. And they're like, Liv, I can't listen to you right now. I'm supposed to be in bed and my parents are going to hear you. I'm like, well, just listen to it in the morning then.
Do you know, and I guess that's the point, isn't it? Because when you understand what's important to the people that you either work with or that you hang out with, you do have the opportunity to recognise that you can pick up some clues and the things that work for them and their preferences, and you can actually tweak it, because we, as I said before, we all of us have all 4 of these colour preferences within us, and they are only preferences. A bit like when you fold, like, let's do it now, like fold your arms in a way that's really the most natural for you. How does that feel?
Yeah, it feels comfy.
Give us a word. Yeah, comfy.
Yeah, really comfy.
Okay, just have a little look down how you're folding your arms, though. Okay, so you've got your left hand poking in. Mm-hmm. Which hand have you got poking in, Liv? You've got your left hand. Oh, you've got your right hand poking in. Look, see, all of us are sitting here with a different way of doing this, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you're right and I'm wrong, and this is the best way and that's the best way. No, now unfold them and fold them the other way.
No, it doesn't feel natural, does it?
No, go on. So sometimes it takes a bit of thinking about as well. It kind of...
You're doing it the same way you did before.
You are, actually.
No.
That one's got to go. How does that feel?
Really odd. Really odd. So we're
I feel like people should try this at home.
Yeah, you do. Fold your arms in your natural way and then try and do it the opposite way. And you have to really think about it. So it's not that you can't do it or adapt to that style.
Exactly that. Because what would happen, actually, if you... If we sat here and we did this all day, and on the hour, every hour, you folded your arms the wrong way around and left it for 5 minutes, how would that feel by the end of the day?
It'd probably feel quite normal.
Yeah, you'd get consistent with it, wouldn't you?
It would feel less, those words, awkward and uncomfortable and weird and stuff. Yeah. It would feel less like that and more. And that's the same with your preferences, really. So we will all have one that we're naturally... You can sit how you like now, ladies. we will typically have one or two that we naturally prefer to kind of use all the time. And our lowest colour energy is a bit like that. It's a bit like sitting with your arms folded the wrong way. You can do it, but it just feels a little bit weird.
I know mine, the one at the bottom. I know this really clearly. So my blue card is at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. Reflective, observing, analytical, cautious, formal, exacting. It's all that high level of detail stuff. I have to really force myself to sit to do the detail within my business, or even, for example, just recently I've been reading quite a large legal document for something that I'm dealing with, and it's really pushed every comfort. I've got to do it, and I've got to sit there and make myself do it, but my gosh, was that difficult. And I spotted things, and I did it, and I went through with a ruler, but it's just not my natural preferred style. I'd have preferred to have got on the phone to the solicitor and said, right, let's read this through together, right, change that and do that and whatever.
Yes.
So I know that that's at the bottom.
I just think people at home, when they hear these words, they could probably be able to think about someone that they know who is that. For example, when you say that, I think of Ant.
Oh, do you? Reflective, observing, analytical, cautious, formal, exacting, probably.
It'll be one of his higher ones, I think.
Yeah, it will. It will. I mean, his level of detail. I mean, when I asked him about...
It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
You'll have heard us talk maybe before about his love of the solar panels and the solar panel app. And he still doesn't understand why I don't know whether we've got power I can use for the oven, or I can put the dishwasher on, or we'll have hot water. I just don't get it. And he explains it again in intense detail.
Intense detail.
I still do not absorb it.
Yeah, do you know, he sounds like my husband actually. So, but typically, sometimes we are
Really
attracted to people
compliment.
but who from the opposite colour energy. And if you think about it, it probably is something that you found quite an attractive trait to start
Well,
with.
he's got my back, you know, and dealing
Exactly.
when someone crashed in my car the other day, he knows exactly
Yeah.
everything that needs to happen and deal with it and guide me through it, and I need that.
Yes.
It's just so you know which person to, for example, for which person to go to. So for me, if I was buying a car, the first person I would go to would be Ant, because I know he has that high level of detail and he'll look at how well it runs on petrol, this, how reliable it is. I would go to him for that. Something to do with, like, I don't know, a friendship problem, I'd probably go to you or grandma, because Ant's less good at understanding the emotion. He's more on the detail. So then you realise which person is in a situation, who can you go to for maybe like advice or something, because you're much more aware of how they receive and also deliver information as well.
Absolutely. So I loved the example that you just gave then of buying a car, because this is one. So all of these profiling tools are based on the work of Carl Jung, and he talks about 3 sets of psychological preferences. So how you take in information, whether it's your sensing or your intuition preference, how you make your decisions, whether that's a thinking preference or a feeling preference, and then kind of how and where you get your energy, whether that's through introversion and extroversion. And the car buying example is perfect because, my husband, when we both bought our cars, he is very much like that. So thinking preference. So he would probably, like Ant by the sound of it, might well have done a lot of research, might well have had a spreadsheet detailing these important things like safety and reliability and fuel efficiency and insurance group, things like that, right? And that probably would be the place where they started to make that decision. That is the polar opposite to me. And I'm sensing you two as well, because the way that I bought my car, I just went into the showroom and I was like, oh, I'm going to sit in that one over there, or like that. So I sat in it, I was like, no, this isn't right. No, but I'm going to try that one. And I sat in it, I was like, ooh, this is nice. I like it. But it was a total feeling preference. It was just felt like the right thing to do. And that's just an example of the difference. It doesn't mean that I didn't then go and check in on the detail. Okay, so how much does it cost, and what is the fuel efficiency and safety,
what
and all
is
of that
my road
stuff,
tax going to be,
all of that stuff. But my decision was made predominantly on how it made me feel rather than the detail. And that's just an example of we're all different, right?
And actually, in teams, and the teams that you go in to train and teach and empower, they need to work more effectively together. So you need to pinpoint the right person for the right job to help you get the tasks done. And by knowing this, you know your team members better, and they know you better.
Exactly that. I think it explains a lot of things about how we like to work and our preferences for the way that we work and the type of email that we might send, or the communication. Some of these colour energies, red and yellow energy, can make a decision really, really quickly. They don't really necessarily like a lot of detail about that either. Whereas red, blue and green energy, they're much more reflective. They want to think things over before they make a decision. So it just helps, as say, individuals and teams to really understand each other and appreciate what's important to them. So I think you said earlier, Liv, you sometimes with your friends, it's just easy, isn't it? Know, and it's probably because we share similar preferences, right?
Yeah.
But actually, there is a danger of surrounding yourself with people that are similar to you. Can you, as particularly in a work environment, because you might miss things. So I know in a work environment that I'm quite good at coming up with ideas. I'm quite good at making stuff happen. I kind of check in with people. Am I the right person that would put a structure in place, or be really detailed, or be able to cross the I's? No, I'm not. So, and also I might miss some of these things. So
you need to recruit that type of person.
Exactly that. So sometimes finding somebody who has a completely opposite preference to you is a really good thing, because it can absolutely give you some insight or thought or consideration that you might not have otherwise have. And actually, from a work perspective, there's been a lot of studies that talk about teams that are cognitively diverse, so they think differently, are actually, they can spot risk much quicker, they can innovate much quicker. And it's probably no surprise, is it, if you think about, some teams, they might work really effectively together, but they might be they might think in the same way too. So it's important to be able to recognise that difference, and cognitive difference is important.
My blue is also at the bottom.
How do you think that should this be translated into schools, into education?
Oh, Jane,
I'm sorry, but I
just
think it should be.
So, in lockdown, when my girls were then 14 and 16, in the first week, I thought, do you know what? We don't really know what's happening with schools, so I'm going to do something that I usually do at work, but I'll do it at home. And I sort of set aside about half an hour thinking, they'll be a little bit interested in this. So they've completed the profile. We've got a youth profile. Oh my days, not just half an hour, all day. We went from half an hour to 8 hours of just doing exercises and activities. But you know what? They suddenly had these light bulb moments around. That's why I really struggle when maybe the teacher explains something in that way, or maybe, this is why I get on really well with this person, or when this person speaks in this kind of way that I really struggle to understand it. And it just, oh gosh, we had so many light bulb moments. And fundamentally, I think that that's what kept them mentally well during COVID, because they're both really different. One of them was really quite happy to sit on Teams and do work, because actually she has an introversion preference. So working in small groups, that was fine for her. The other one, the younger one, had much more of an extroversion preference. She gets her energy from being around others. So almost being isolated in your room when you haven't got your friends to talk to and bounce around, that was really hard. It's really hard for a lot of people. So don't know, it just helped them to understand themselves and each other and what they needed, I suppose, to keep
and to
well
deal
during
with the
COVID.
and deal with the situation.
But what I love about it is a couple of things. One, they still talk about it now. They still talk about their own colours and what that means to them when they're talking to other people. Oh gosh, I can't remember the second. Oh, but also it made me think, wow, how powerful this would be if something as simple as this to increase your self-awareness was delivered in schools as part of the national curriculum. Imagine that. So I think there would be because it's almost like the bedrock of who you are. And relationships and problem solving and team building and negotiation and all of the life skills that you kind of need are kind of rooted in this sort of stuff.
100% they are.
And this is so, I know people can't see us, but when we're saying easy, it is literally 4 coloured cards with words on. It's easy. I bet Ella, my 3-year-old cousin, could do this. She'd probably like the colours as well. She'd be like, Liv, this one's yellow and this one's green. But she would love it.
And it would be very interesting for parents and teachers and the education system to adopt this. I mean, we're looking at these 4 cards, and that's very simplistic. There's a whole depth of work that goes on behind this, isn't there? Because I'm also sat with my profile, which you did for me. A Clarity 4D profile.
Should we just explain what the other colour... We've gone through blue, but we've not talked about the other thing.
We will. We'll come to them. Because people will be wondering what they are, won't they? Well, they need to get in touch with Kerry and have a chat with her.
Hi everyone, we hope you're enjoying this episode so far. We're just cutting in to say, if you're enjoying our podcast, please click the follow button on whichever platform you're listening on. And please leave us a review. We'd be so grateful for your support and feedback. Podcasts are free to listen to, but if you are loving our school-run chats and debates, please consider buying us a virtual coffee. The link will be in the description of every podcast episode, and it will also be in the bio of our Instagram, which is @theschoolrun_official. And why not give it a follow while you're there, so you can see all the updates and get sneak peeks at upcoming episodes. Thank you so much, and happy listening.
In terms of my profile, it speaks to me about, yes, it tells me where my preferences are, but it also shows me my areas that I need to grow.
Yeah, we'd call them your hidden potential.
I mean, things like how I react in certain circumstances, criticism. I would be quick to, and give feedback on, but this is because of the reason, rather than just listening, accept, and maybe that's an area that I need to work on in terms of growth.
Justify it.
Yeah, justify it or whatever. There's all sorts of things. I mean, this profile is fascinating, and it also gives you an area for you to talk to a closest person to say, can you give me some feedback in these areas, which I think is just phenomenal.
Yeah. So there is a lot of these tools out there, and you need to be licensed and accredited to use them. So I use two actually. So I'm a I'm a licensed insights practitioner, but I also use a tool called Clarity 4D, and they both work in a very similar way. They both use red, yellow, green, and blue. And they just, like you say, they can kind of transform the way you see yourself and the relationships you have with others as a result. But actually, Liv, you were just talking about school, and also your 3-year-old
My little cousin,
cousin might be able to understand this. I have actually worked in schools, and I have actually worked in primary schools.
Wow.
So one of my good friends is a head teacher. And we did this down at the beach during COVID when you couldn't meet up with anyone. Do you remember that? And she was like, "Oh, I want to do this an inset day with my staff." So we'd gone back in, and I'd done a session with her, all of her staff in her school, and they were like, "Oh, I suddenly get why I'm like this." But then not only were they starting to think about themselves and how they operated as a team, within a school, they were also thinking about, oh, that's why, and they could recognise it in their class, in each of the students in their class as well. So a bit later on, I actually went back and I worked with Year 5 and Year 6, but I've also worked with younger ones too. We didn't do a profile or anything, but this understanding of being able to recognise that we're all different, and putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and seeing the world from their perspective might help you to see things differently. But we did a whole load of really fun stuff with Year 5 and Year 6, and because I'd worked with the teachers and we knew what colours they led with, I thought it would be interesting to see if these Year 5s and Year 6s can work it out. So we'd say, okay, so let's take Mrs. Deacon, let's say, what colour do you think Mrs. Deacon leads with?
Oh,
and they tell you what, they nailed it, they got it. But that's the point. Even younger children can begin to understand more about themselves, not the depth and the complexity of what we're talking about here, but on a really simple level. So that's why I get super excited about talking about it in schools.
But so even if you think like you did it with the staff and they're however old they are and they're only discovering it now, imagine if you did this from every single child at like starting at Year 6 and in high school, how much earlier they've learned that, and how much maybe like arguments or bad relationships or thing it could save them throughout their life by doing this.
Having a better understanding. Well, we'll touch on. You want to touch on the other 2 cards, don't you, Liv? 3 cards. Okay, so you read what you think yours are, your order.
I think mine is yellow, green, red, blue.
Okay.
So yellow is chatty, expressive, cheerful, sociable, exuberant, and enthusiastic. Which people on this podcast are like, that definitely sounds like you, Liv. The green one is empathetic, concerned, informal, supportive, patient, and easygoing. That still sounds like me. Fire, that's the red one. Focused, decisive, direct, challenging, assertive, and action orientated. And then the blue one, which you said before, like analytical.
So you're and Kerry agreed that you think she leads with yellow, then green, then red, then blue.
I'm pretty sure, and that was just based on the first podcast that I heard. But actually, all of the other podcasts I've listened to, I think probably would reinforce that too.
Yeah, how interesting. Let's talk about your story a little bit. How did you come to be in learning and development? There's a lot of young people that listen to this podcast, a lot of adults that don't know the range of careers that we can actually have, because at school we're only taught doctor, vet, beautician, hairdresser. What happened for you post school? A levels, college. What was the journey into running Oomph?
That is a great question. But actually, and it links back to, if I'd have understood more about this in my earlier days and understood the things that I was naturally quite good at, would it have changed? I don't know, my career direction. I don't know. So after school, I went to college and I did A levels. I couldn't work out what A levels I wanted, and actually, some of the subjects that I'd done at A level, I'd never done at school before. So how do you know if you're going to like them, other than the kind of the parents' evening that you might get or the open days? So I probably tried multiple different A levels, and I'm saying this because I actually had 3 years at college because I couldn't make up my mind what A levels I wanted to do. So the only one that I started in my first year and continued and took was economics. But I tried a whole load of other stuff in the meantime, and then I either liked it or I didn't like it or whatever. So I ended up having 3 years at A levels, which was fine.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed my 3 years at college. But and then I went to uni. I used to live in a place called Bexhill-on-Sea, and I wanted to move away from Bexhill-on-Sea, so I went to Sheffield, to Sheffield Hallam, to do food marketing management. What on earth is that?
Food marketing management.
What? Do you know what? I think it's because I got an A in my food tech, and I thought, I should probably. I was going to do business studies, but I thought, I did something foodie, so sounded quite fun, and it involved a placement year, so it's 3 years plus a year on a placement. Do you know what? I just loved my uni experience. I had such a good time. I met brilliant people who are still good friends in my life now, and I would do it all over again, even if I didn't come out with a degree. How well, that's how much I enjoyed it.
Do you know what? That was the same as my university experience, and I also went to Sheffield. I went to Sheffield Uni, so we spent the same time in the same city. How crazy is that?
Oh my days!
Broomhill and up at the Grindstone. I worked in the Grindstone pub, and
so I worked in the Howard, which is
did you?
The train station and the student union.
so yeah, I spent 3 years in Sheffield. But degree wise, I'm not sure I'd ever go back and repeat that. But in terms of the time with my friends and the place that we were, absolutely would do that again.
I mean, to be fair, apprenticeships weren't an option when 20 odd years ago, were they? But and now I think it's a really great option, because we didn't used to pay $9,500 a year tuition fees and all of those kind of things. So apprenticeships are a really great option for a lot of people, and I think there's going to be more and more of them as they kind of develop. So
yeah,
and actually understanding, getting experience in the workplace as well as getting paid and not coming out with a debt, that is really attractive for a lot of people, right?
Sure is. So where was your placement year?
I spent a year as a product development technologist in a sweet factory. How cool is that? For Swizzles Matlow. So you remember like drumstick lollies, love hearts, fizzers, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I just got to spend all day, every day in the kind of design kitchen, inventing new sweets. How cool is that?
That is so cool.
That is really cool.
Right?
And you wouldn't think that even existed as a role, but it obviously does.
I had such a great time. So that was one of the things that I did, and so definitely having the experience. It's a bit like an apprenticeship, though, isn't it? Having work experience as part of your degree really helped me. And then when I left there, I didn't want to leave Sheffield, so I ended up staying on at the student union for 2 years as vice president education, which is an elected role. It just meant that I got to live the student life
for another couple of years.
It was great. And then I thought, I really should probably get a proper job. But I really wanted to travel, so I ended up going to Corfu to be a holiday rep for 6 months. Amazing experience. I loved that. But then when I come back, I thought I really should get a proper job. So I applied for a lot of graduate schemes, and I got offered a place on a graduate program with a company called Safeway, who you probably won't have heard of.
I remember Safeway. Yeah, Safeway were a big supermarket chain, like Sainsbury's and Morrison's and all of that.
Yes, and so I joined there in 1998. But I had a fabulous time. So you had to spend. There was 3 separate placements, and you had to spend one in store, like as a manager in training, or you had to, and 2 other placements. So I spent 9 months in Southsea in Portsmouth as a manager in training in store, which was brilliant. And then I moved up to their head office, which was in Hayes at the time, and I spent 9 months in the bakery business unit, kind of as a buyer's assistant, buying cakes and biscuits. Great job as well.
Sounds well good.
Oh, do you know what? I had a cupboard full of cakes and biscuits, and it was that was around Millennium, so there was a whole load of amazing things. But actually, what I learned there so it was fascinating. I had brilliant insight, and from there I went to my 3rd placement, which was in the retail training team, because I understood the store operation. I understood the kind of strategic direction that the bakery business unit was going, and they needed somebody to create training materials for the bakery. So it kind of fell into place, and I was like, I found my thing. So I think I was about 27 years old when I was like, I found what I want to do. Okay. Which was the whole training and learning and development and that kind of stuff.
Training the people and developing them and writing the programs.
Yes.
Okay.
So that was my moment of, this is what I want to do.
And you were 27. So it absolutely proves, and every guest that we have on, is you don't have it figured out at school. You've been expected to decide what you want to do, Liv, you and your peers. But you might not find that for many years.
you might not find it. And I was lucky that I found it at that point in time. So my A-level choices and my GCSEs and my degree in food marketing, none of that was particularly relevant because I found learning and development and training was the thing that I loved to do. So at that point, I then went back and studied my CIPD level 3 and level 5 and level 7, and kind of that's where my career kind of took off. But I wasn't till it was 27.
Yeah, amazing. And then what point did you think, I'm not going to work for a company anymore doing their learning? Because big, huge blue chips and you know, they will have their own in-house learning and development people and teams and departments. But there's lots and lots and lots of businesses like mine that don't have in-house training and development teams and developing all the soft skills. They hire consultants in like you. So there must have come a point where you thought, I don't want to work in-house anymore. I want to create Oomph. What was that?
I guess I've always had it in the back of my mind, but I don't think I was ever brave enough. But then I think all of the stars and the planets aligned. I was working at the Travis Perkins Group at the time, and I'd kind of worked in the learning and development team, or various different learning and development teams across that business. So I used to look after learning and development at Wix, and then in the bathroom showroom and City Plumbing and Benchmarks and a whole load of different organisations. I used to kind of lead on really big learning and development kind of transformational projects. And then I just finished one in one of the businesses. There wasn't really another big one for me to go on to. And so I had this moment in my life where I was like, what do I want to do? I think as you get older and wiser, you kind of think about things differently. And so an opportunity presented itself. And I thought, well, I'm going to set my own business up. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it now is the time.
That's brave. It's brave, isn't it? Because you walk away from a salary and the perks of that the safety of that, and to do that and jump ship, you're obviously brave and courageous.
So I think it was a bit of that, but it was also the time was right, the opportunity was right. It didn't feel like such a big risk at the time, and so I did that just over 4 years ago. And I kind of thought it is a bit scary, but it didn't feel scary at the time. It just felt right. And so I started off doing a bit of associate work. So for anyone that's listening, that means somebody paid me to come and basically run stuff for them. So it wasn't really for my clients, it was their clients. So I did a little bit of associate work to start with, but it wasn't really floating my boat. But actually what happened was my diary filled up with a whole load of this associate work. And I was kind of thinking, it pays okay, but it's not what I want to do. It's not what I'm loving. And then COVID happened.
Right, okay. And a blessing in a way.
Well, I kind of believe in things happening for a reason. And so like a lot of people at that time, everything disappeared out of my diary. But I love it because it gave me the time to really focus on what I wanted to do and really connect with what was important to me. And it wasn't driving around the country doing one-day workshops here and there. It was about making a difference to people and helping them to really understand and make kind of big changes in their lives. So at that point, I just kind of thought, I repurposed. I thought, what do I love? What I want to do? What I want to be known for? What am I kind of quite good at? And colours and Clarity 4D and insights and this kind of stuff. I thought, this is what I want to do. So literally with everything that I do. So that was really clear to me. It was like a
light bulb moment.
A light bulb moment, indeed. And like a lot of people at that time, I wasn't that familiar with virtual kind of training and I kind of thought, no, I couldn't possibly do the stuff that we usually do in a workshop. Is really interactive. We play games and have lots of fun, and it's really immersive, a bit like the stuff that Rachel does. I thought, I can't possibly do that on Zoom. But actually, that was just a mindset that I was holding. When you open your mind to sometimes these things and you go, actually, I could do it a little bit differently. And so that's kind of how it started. And at the same time, it was the realization that this is massively powerful to my own children. And could this be used in schools? And kind of ended up connecting with a whole load of people.
But it wouldn't have happened had COVID not hit, really.
Exactly that.
And I saw you working, because obviously my husband's a firefighter, and I saw you working with some fire teams in different areas of the country, and I was like, oh my God, I mean, every organisation will have a set of values, won't they? Or should have a mission statement and a set of values. And And obviously you were working with colour and all of this to embed those values, I think. Am I right? Within a particular... And I was like, oh my God, and this lady that I've met through the PSA, she works with other fire teams. You really need something like this. Because it just helps any type of team. So from a netball team to an office environment to a public sector workforce like the fire service.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I look back and we had such a fabulous time working with the fire service. I worked with Merseyside Fire and Rescue, and they had created, I suppose, or rewritten. They'd used people inside their organisation to kind of to recreate. They called it their leadership message, but this was their vision, their values, their purpose. You know, so anybody that was either new to Merseyside or outside of Merseyside could really get a feel for what was important to them as an organisation. And it was created internally by the fire service, but they wanted to be able to share it with everyone. So we spent quite a long time with and I did this in a project. I collaborated with a couple of other Clarity 4D business partners. So we spent we still work with the fire service now actually, but we spent a long time working with them, really understanding what they wanted to achieve through this. And it was all about recognizing and valuing that everyone will have a different perspective, a different way of doing things, and let's celebrate all those differences. But actually, you can still live and breathe the Merseyside Fire and Rescue leadership values. Absolutely. So we had such a good time. Yes, so much fun.
I find it fascinating following your journey on LinkedIn and learning about all the different people that you work with and the colour. I mean, just your energy anyway is just fantastic, and it oozes out of the posts that you write. And you turn up and you've your colours on and you've brought your cards and you know it's just fantastic, isn't it? Super, super, super. What would you go back now, Kerry, and tell your younger self? Now you know everything that you've gone through so far to date and where you are in work and personally. What would you tell someone younger or your younger self?
God, that's a really good question. Probably not to put pressure on yourself, to worry about it. You'll find your thing. Just open your mind to what these opportunities could be, because you never know. I've had the most amazing conversations with people in the strangest places that have turned into things that have just really impacted my life. Gosh, and you never know where opportunity is, right? So just be open to it would be one thing. Don't sweat the small stuff is another thing. I think there's a lot of pressure on young people to make the decisions and know what they want to do. How on earth do you do that? Like I say, I was 27 when I discovered my thing, and then I started learning about my thing. So despite the fact that I'd gone through college and uni and stuff doing one thing, my actual thing that I love to do was entirely different, and I've kind of focused. But we're still learning now, right? So
yeah, of course.
When I did my TEDx last year, I suddenly thought, I want to do a bit more of this. Where can I learn more of this? So, which is how come we came to the PSA.
I was going to come on to that. So, you're a TEDx speaker. I mean, that's a big platform, global platform, and incredible. I mean, you've said yes to that opportunity or put yourself through it to get on that stage, and you're now a TEDx speaker. Incredible, but you had to say yes to that opportunity, and we've talked about that on the podcast before, haven't we? How did that come about?
Oh gosh, so this is an exciting week actually, because it is TEDx Warrington tomorrow as well. So I was turning 50 last year, big birthday, and I really wanted to do something quite memorable, but something that terrifies me and it excites me in equal measure. Now I know people that have jumped out of planes and done some really stuff that's pushed them to the edge of their comfort zone. I wasn't willing to jump out of a plane, but when I saw TEDx Warrington were looking for speakers, I thought, perhaps I should apply. Now, in a million years, I didn't imagine that I would even get through the application process, but you have to be in it to win it, right? So I thought, well, I'll just apply and see what happens. So I applied. You had to do like a mini video talking about what you would talk about and some other things. And I think they had 100 or so applicants. I was amazed when I got a call from Kirsty, who's the organizer in Warrington, to say, Kerry, we'd like to join our TEDx speaker program. What I didn't appreciate, I've learned a lot about TEDx, but different TEDx are organised and they operate in different ways. But Kirsty, particularly in Warrington, wanted to give the platform to local people, and whether or not you had a speaking background, it was more around share the great ideas worth sharing, which is the theme of TEDx. And the theme of this one was building connection and strengthening community. And that really resonated with me. I thought, I'm all about community. And so I loved the fact that they wanted to use local people to talk about something about this theme. And they were going to put people through an amazing learning journey with a speaker coach to kind of help them to craft their TEDx and then to deliver it. So that I went on a massive learning journey.
Yeah, and really push some comfort zones through that.
It was the best thing ever, and I would do it all over again, even if I hadn't stood on that red dot and done my TEDx, because the learning I received as a result of that was off the scale.
And you did a speech, didn't you, not long ago for your school? That was the first time you'd ever stood up and shared some of your story. So you kind of can relate to that pushing a comfort zone in a very different capacity.
Yeah, it's sports hall in front of 400 people. And yeah, it was very, very scary, but I realised that when I went up, like, I was nervous, like I was shaking and I was like really, really red. And then when I came off, I was like, well, that wasn't really as scary as I thought in my head.
Amazing, but you did it. See, that's the important thing. A lot of people go, oh, I could never do that and I wouldn't do it. But it's not they can't actually do it. It's their mindset around that.
Yeah, and mentally it's like when every time I think I'm doing something scary, which maybe like is in front of people, or maybe I'm going to college and I'm trying to make a new friends. In my head now, like I always go back to, yeah, but Liv, you've spoke in front of 400 people. So like just as a mental kind of like win, whenever I think something is scary, I think, well, it's not as scary as that, and then it makes it seem better.
Yes.
Physically as well. So if I'm on a really hard run, when I ran my half marathon and I raised money, I was out. It was like middle of December. It was Wednesday night. It was pitch black. It was literally ice on the snow. Me and my uncle, we set off. We were running for 2.5 hours. I had the wrong socks on, so in the first 2 minutes, I had blisters on my feet. I didn't have a running watch then, so I was holding my phone. At the end, I took my phone out my hand. My hand was stuck in the position of holding my phone because I was so cold. So every time I'm doing something like at the gym or anything like that, I always go back to, Liv, you've run a half marathon in the middle of winter. This isn't as bad as that. And it makes it seem achievable. And because I think when people don't see things as achievable, it puts them off, because it's like, I could never do that because it doesn't seem like reachable or possible. So if you do it in small steps, you'll realise, well, it's not as bad as that. So yeah, it is achievable because I've done that.
She's so wise. You're so wise for a 16-year-old. Because you imagine if everyone in our world was like that and held that view. What improvements in the economy and everything we would have.
I know, but Kerry, that's, I get emotional when I think about these things, but it's a privilege to have these conversations with professionals like yourself, that Liv gets an opportunity, just really selfishly. I know the listeners love these podcasts, and we've done amazing with the amount of downloads we've had, like nearly 7,000 now. Ooh. Like, it's just insane. And it keeps going up. But it's selfishly, it's a privilege, and selfishly, it's Liv learning from just amazing people. How special is that?
It's amazing.
A couple of times a week having these interviews. It's just really lovely that she gets to experience and then go, oh, well, I quite like that. Oh, I could do that. Or maybe it's just, it is really lovely. So you then, from the TEDx, found you wanted to do more of this speaking, and obviously went on the hunt to find an organisation that could, I don't know, parachute you to the next level, which was the PSA. Am I right?
So yes and no. So I didn't necessarily go on a hunt. More our joint friend James, who was involved with the PSA at the time, he said, Kerry, why don't you come along to the PSA? So I was like, okay, let me go try this stuff, because I think as an adult, I wasn't always, weirdly, and I'm in a learning and development role, but I wasn't always as focused on my own professional learning and growth as perhaps I should have been. And even though I think I've been on probably the biggest learning journey of my life since setting up my own business, I did think, I should go along and I should see. And I think I might have had an idea about what the PSA, the Professional Speaking Association, might be like. But I went there, and actually it wasn't like I thought it was going to be. It was a bunch of wonderful people who were really generous with their time and their wisdom and their knowledge, were happy to share things. And actually, these people, a lot of them did similar things to me. So there was a lot of coaches and trainers and facilitators, and there were people that were absolutely at the top of their game, keynote speeches, and broadcasters, and but there was just such a community. And so I went to my first session and I was like, whoa, I've been in learning and development for 25 years. I have got my level 7, my CIPD in learning and development, and I'm really well qualified in it. But I came out of there thinking, I learned something new. Oh, I'm going to try that. Yeah. So, and that is exactly what I found about the PSA.
And they say if you surround yourself with choose your 5 people very, very carefully, because you become the average.
Yes.
And I similarly was introduced to the PSA earlier this year by our mutual friend Rachel Haslam, and she'd say, "Come along with me, Jane, come." I was like, "Well, I don't even know what I want to speak about. I don't know what this is," but I'll always say yes to an opportunity, and I'm open to it. And so off I went. And when I came out, she said, "What do you think?" And I said, these were my words: "I cannot believe that this amazing thing happens on a Wednesday night somewhere in Warrington, and this room full of incredible people. Like this happens like on a weekday night." I was blown away.
Yeah.
Same, like incredible people, happy to share. No, it didn't feel like you were. It's not networking or like forced.
No,
it's just the most beautiful community, like you say.
Yes.
And it was a no-brainer that I was joining, and obviously we're there tonight together. So, and you're soon to be the regional president.
Again, it was that opportunity. I don't say no to stuff either. James at the start of the year said, "Kerry, how's your year going? What are you focusing on this year?" And I kind of walked right into this. I was like, yeah, love doing the stuff that I'm doing, but I love doing the TEDx, and I'd love to kind of learn a bit more about speaking and public speaking and how I can kind of do some more of this stuff. So I kind of walked right into that, and he said, "Why don't you become my vice president?" But actually what that meant was then you have to take over the role of regional president the following year. But actually everyone that I've met, not only in the Northwest but across the UK and Ireland in the PSA, have been amazingly supportive, collaborative. And I just thought, this is the place to learn this stuff, right? And if nothing else, I am having an amazing time with a whole lot of people who are just kind of like my tribe.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Who would you make reference to as a teacher or mentor that's inspired you? It doesn't have to be a teacher from school, it might be, or a mentor that you've experienced in business, or someone from the PSA. Who's been that inspiring person that pops into your mind that you would reference?
Gosh, there's so many people. A lady called Catherine Sandon was the TEDx speaker coach. She really helped me to think about.
I heard her speak, I think. Didn't she speak
she's
at
amazing.
the PSA earlier this year?
Yes, she did. But if I think back to my career, so Angela Cooley used to be my boss when I worked at the Travis Perkins Group, but she also recruited me onto the graduate program at Safeway. She's been a massive supporter and a massive. She's always been there to kind of put opportunities out there or say, "You can do this, Kerry." And then there's also another person that's springing into my mind, and his name was Ian Lewis. Now, I asked Ian to be my mentor when I was in the Travis Perkins Group many, many moons ago, because I respected him professionally, but also because I think he leads with a totally different kind of energy, and I wanted somebody to kind of challenge my thinking. So he absolutely did that for me.
How interesting. That is so interesting. I'm sure those people listen back to this and think, "Oh my gosh, thank you, Kerry." But even though those are the people that you have talked about today, I'm sure there's lots of people in your world that you are that mentor or inspiration for them, because life is cyclical, isn't it? And I've always believed in that pay it forward scenario, and I think you're the same.
So absolutely, yes, and I love to do this. But the other thing that I'm also passionate about is I am actually a mentor for the Girls Network. And I don't know if you know anything about the Girls Network.
Tell us more about the Girls Network.
You would make a fabulous mentor for the Girls Network. So the Girls Network is designed to help girls in less advantaged postcodes, let's say, to connect with a professional mentor who is female, to help them to think about things differently. Because actually, what they know is girls from less advantaged postcodes might typically be surrounded by a whole load of role models that might do kind of a certain type of role, but not necessarily
show them a bigger picture.
Exactly that. So the Girls Network works with schools, connects them with female mentors. So basically, I kind of sign up to spending a school year with a mentee, and I spend 1 hour a month for 10 months. And I've just started a new mentoring journey with somebody in a college in Merseyside. But it's just about helping her to kind of think about what she might want to do, connecting her with different people.
I'd love that.
Oh,
I would absolutely love to do that.
And I suppose I'm thinking about with my last mentee, as an example, she was thinking about her A-level choices. So she must have been she was about 14, I think, at the time. So the Girls Network worked with girls between 14 and 19. So my first mentee was 14, and she was at school and thinking about what A-level she wanted to choose. So she was quite interested in criminology and stuff. So actually, I then connected with my LinkedIn network, and I arranged some conversations with her from some people that were some fabulous people that I didn't really know until this point. And they were talking about their experiences in the criminal justice system, running a prison, let's say, a whole load of fascinating stuff. So it's about helping somebody to think differently and connecting with different people and sharing potential future careers. Oh, I love it. Oh, Jane, you so need to be a member of the Girls Network.
I would absolutely love that. I would absolutely love that. It's been a joy speaking to you. I mean, there's so much to talk about colour and so much to talk about profiling. But if people want to get in touch with you, how do they find you? How can they think, I'd like to have a conversation with Kerry, I'd like profiling in my business, or I'd like my daughter to have a profile done? How can they reach you?
So the place I hang up most is on LinkedIn. So you'll find me on LinkedIn. I also have a website, which is oomphllearning.co.uk. But yeah, I love connecting. I love talking to people. I love helping people to kind of begin to recognise what that might mean for them. So yeah, I'm more than happy to have a conversation.
And if they go on LinkedIn, we're connected as connections anyway. So it's Kerry Lockyer, Lockyer, Oomph Learning, OOMPH Learning. Very, very exciting. And we always have to finish with our last question, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
A school run memory.
I was thinking about this on the way here, but the ones that really stick out for me were probably the unusual ones, like the day that I might have had to either come home from school in the snow, or I particularly remember when my kids were in primary school, and I used to go and pick them up in the car, but it started snowing, so we couldn't. So we literally had to walk through the meadows, pick them up from school, by which point it was probably about 1.5 foot deep with snow. So for them walking back home in this and making snow angels in the snow, that really sticks with me as one of those really happy school moments.
And I'm sure when your daughters listen to this, they'll remember that as well.
Probably, yeah.
And it's there forever for people to listen back to. Thank you so much for joining us on the school run.
Thank you.
You enjoyed that, Liv?
Yeah, of course I am.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the School Run podcast. We absolutely love doing the podcast. Podcasts are free to listen to, but if you'd like to buy us a virtual coffee, we'd be really, really grateful. You just need to go to www.buymeacoffee.com/theschoolrun. That's buymeacoffee.com/theschoolrun. You can also follow us on Instagram @theschoolrun_official or TikTok with the same name @theschoolrun_official. And we always really appreciate your reviews and feedback. On the platform that you're listening to, you can review our podcast and give us a star rating. We'd love to have your comments and receive your feedback. Thank you so much for being a massive support of our journey.